Is my cursor visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah, I think we are just going to give another 10, 20 seconds max for people to join in and settle in. Hey, everyone, I
Sure.
can just see that in the chat.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. I think we do have like a decent amount of people who have joined in. I think we can start, and I'm sure like more people would be joining in as well. So yeah, BM everyone. I'm Aniket. I take care of community at Devfolio, and yeah, it's another workshop for the on-chain summer buildathon that we have been that have we have been hosting so far. So as you are aware, we have started the on-chain summer buildathon workshop series that started last Friday. We have been covering one track per day. We have talked about discovery, we have talked about gaming, we have talked about commerce, but today we have Dan and Isaac from Zora team who would be talking about the creator track, and who better to intro what is the hype behind the creator track than Dan himself. So Dan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, BM, everyone. I'm Dan. I'm a protocol engineer at Zora. I work on our contracts and our developer tools, and I'm excited to present for you the Zora technical workshop as part of Onchain Summer Buildathon. So this workshop is going to go over WTF is Zora, some project ideas, a prize overview, talk about our protocol and how to start building on Zora using our developer tools, and we'll have some Q&A. So Zora's mission is to make creating on the internet free and valuable. We think of Zora as a place where people can creatively express themselves on chain. Creators express themselves through a wide range of media types, including still and moving image, audio, text, video, 3D formats, HTML, wide range of media. And here are some of the example things people have created, from fashion to 3D objects to videos to interactive experiences to just images and podcasts. And we give people full ability to customize their profile and creation pages and their min pages. And we have a protocol rewards, on-chain protocol rewards, which allows creators and also developers to earn rewards while creating and building on the Zora protocol. And here's an example of Daylight Studios, who has earned quite a bit and has had quite a bit of volume building on our protocol. Now we're going to talk a little bit about project ideas. Just here's a general prompt. Think about building new clients that can and business models that can new clients that can tap into Zora and into our business model. These can be like new fonts, recipes, public domain works, meme templates. This is just a prompt from the founder, co-founder Jacob of Zora. And here are general prize categories that we're looking for. For create, there's like ideas around, creating YouTube videos, meme templates, SVGs, screenplays. There's an example of a create tool called bound.wtf. For collect, there's think about like new minting experiences, social minting, novel minting mechanics, new ways to collect that are creative. Examples of this are Daylight, Surreal, and Warpcast. And for Create Discover, there's like idea of like a mood board or discovery platform or curation tools. Examples of this would be like Gallery, Refraction, and Mint.fun. We have a 20 prize pool. The top winner is going to get 6 ETH. That's for our favorite project. In the Create category, we're giving one team 3 ETH, and collect one team 3 ETH, and curate discover one team 3 ETH. And then there's like an imagine category, which is some crazy wild idea we haven't thought about, and we're giving 3 ETH for that. And we're giving a split of 2 ETH among projects that we like that didn't quite get the top prizes. So now I'm going to start talking about the Zora contracts and our developer tools. So at the core of Zora is the 1155 contract. So the 1155 contract allows to have multiple tokens in a single contract. Each token has multiple additions, and then each token can have multiple owners. And each in the form of the owner owns multiple editions of that token, and each token can have individual rules and different administrators and different people, different creators that can earn rewards based on the configuration of that token. So how does this work? When someone comes to our website to create, they go to this create form, and when they create it, the on-chain way of creating is they will call a function create contract on a Zora 1155 factory contract, which is a contract that's deployed at the same address to the mainnet chains that we support. And that singleton factory contract will create and set up an 1155 contract, which will then be owned and administered by the creator. Zora can't really control anything about that contract. It is really owned and administered by the creator. So this Zora 1155 factory is deployed to the same address on these chains, on these mainnet chains, which is Ethereum mainnet, our layer 2, which is a Zora network, Base, Optimism, Arbitrum 1, and Blast. So now I'm going to start talking about our developer tools that make it a lot easier to build on our protocol. So the first I'm going to talk about is protocol deployments. So you would install this with npm install Zora Labs protocol deployments, and this provides like all of our contracts addresses, all our contract ABIs, and publish addresses. So you can see here how we're importing the package protocol deployments, and then these are kind of like our factory ABIs and our factory addresses, and you have access to all of these. And this works really nicely if you're using WAGMI. So sorry, this is an example of getting an address for the protocol rewards contract on the Zora chain. We're going to publish these slides later, so you'll have like full access to this, even if I'm going through it kind of quickly. So how you could use protocol deployments with React and WAGMI. There's the React hook that comes with WAGMI use read contracts. Here I'm importing our protocol rewards ABI and address from our protocol deployments package. And then you get the chain ID, the address that you want to get the balance from. And here we're just using the React WAGMI hook use read contract, which we can easily plug in our protocol rewards API, and we can get the address from the published package. And this is all very type safe. So if you type like balance of, you'll know if you're typing the right function name. So when you go on Zora and you create, you're filling out a bunch of information, and what happens is there's like all this thing you can configure, like the collection name, what kind of currency you want to price in, whether it's C30 or C20, how long you want the win to be open, who you're going to pay out the rewards to, the mint duration, all this configuration around the mints. This is a lot of the stuff to set up. And what happens is when you click create, our 1155 factory is going to create this 1155 contract and a token, set up the rules for the token on what's these minter contracts, which I'm not going to go into detail during this talk, but basically these are kind of singleton contracts that control, define for each token, like the price for token, what kind of currency, if it's an ETH-based, if you're going to be minting it in ETH or in ERC20, when the token can be minted, the max minted quantity per user, bunch of other rules. Now, setting this whole orchestration up is really complicated, and it requires a lot of Solidity code and a lot of kind of deep knowledge of how our contracts work. But we kind of simplify this now with a protocol SDK that lets you set up this, orchestrate this whole process with just like a few lines of TypeScript. You don't even need to write any Solidity. A best place to find documentation for this is on this URL, which kind of goes through all developer tools, and you can see a screenshot of the documentation, which is a new site which we released recently. But you can get like full examples over there. The Zora protocol SDK, you can create tokens both on-chain and gaslessly. You can manage them, which means you can update them, and then you can mint them. And it's all handled through our SDK, or basically the SDK is broken into two different kind of sections. One is the creator client, which is for like creating, and you can see what's available here, which is create 1155, create pre-mint, which I'll talk about later. Delete pre-mint, update pre-mint is like for managing those. I'll explain what a pre-mint is in a little bit. And then there's a collector client, which is like if you're a collector or building like a collection tool, this would let you mint Zora 1155, 721, and pre-mint tokens, which I'll show later. So here's a more full example of using the creator client to create an 1155 contract and a token with a few lines of TypeScript. So here's this big create form. There's all these parameters. We pretty much have feature parity in our creator client. So you can pretty much everything you want to do here on the left side, you can do with our SDK. So here I'm importing creator client from the protocol SDK. I'm using WAGMI to get the current chain and the public client, which is used to like fetch information from the blockchain. And then the address is like the current account. I create the creator client and then with the chain ID and public client, and then I'm calling create 1155, which these are the parameters to create the contract. So this is like the contract name and metadata URI. And then this is like a token level metadata URI you could plug here. And this is the account that's going to be executing it. And then you can use like a WAGMI hook to actually, this doesn't actually create anything. It just prepares parameters, and you would use WAGMI to actually write to the blockchain. Then the next thing I'm going to show you about is minting. So on our mint page here, you can see you click mint, it opens up a pop-up. It asks you how many tokens you want to mint, and then it gives you the price in ETH of what it's going to cost to mint it. We have this available in our SDK too. So you can call collector client got mint costs. Mint type could be 1155, 721 or pre-mint. And then this will give you like the total cost in ETH, just the mint fee, the total purchase cost if you're saying this is like a paid mint where you're pricing this beyond our mint fee, which I'll talk about in a bit. And then the currency if you're pricing this in like a ERC20. But yeah, someone said always max mint. Yes, you should just leave your additions open, honestly. Let as many people mint as possible. Okay, so yeah, this basically, you can build like a front end that kind of displays information. And then finally, if you want to mint it, you would just call this, create the collector client with a chain ID, and you would call mint. You give it, you can mint 1155, 721 or pre-mint. And you give it how many you want to mint, the contract address you want to mint against, and then it'll handle like setting the ETH value to send to the contract to mint the token. Now, this doesn't actually mint anything. It just gives you parameters that you can then submit to the blockchain to actually execute the transaction to perform the mint. And an example of using that is here we have these parameters, and then we could just use WAGMI's use write contract to get the write contract function, and then we just call like a button would be clicked, and you can call write contract with the parameters that are returned from mint. We decided to not actually execute the transaction because this could let you use whatever framework you want to perform the mint. So one of the problems with one of the big barriers for creators creating contracts and tokens is that first they need to have a wallet, and then they need to have ETH in that wallet to be able to pay for the gas to create their contract and token. Now can be really complicated for people new to Web3, and the fact that they need like a crypto on-ramp, and then they need to like transfer their funds to their wallet, and it's very complicated, and we found this to be big barriers. So what we enable through our protocol is a thing called pre-mint, which is creators can create for free by just signing a message. They don't need any ETH in their wallet. And then the only time the collectors pay gas fees, the contract and token are brought on chain when the collector comes to mint the token that the creator signed so that they wanted to create. And the collector is going to pay the gas fees. So basically a creator can set up like a Privy wallet or a Coinbase wallet and then just create without needing any ETH in their wallet. how this works, I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture. So a pre-mint has what's like a contract metadata, which is like the metadata URI, the name, and the creator, the original admin. There's like token price. This is token level configuration. When the mint should start open, create referral, and then who should receive like the rewards when this token is minted. So a creator then comes and signs a message containing all this information. And then once they sign it, this is submitted to like a centralized API. Well, it could also be, you could host your own API in it, but we provide an API that allows it to be served on Zora Co. And then when a collector comes to mint this token, they will call on the website will call the premium API to fetch it, to fetch this thing that was signed. It'll fetch like the pre-mint and the corresponding signature. And then when it comes time to mint it, the collector will call pre-mint on this contract, which will, this pre-mint executor contract, which will get or create a contract and token. So based on those parameters, so it gets to create the contract if the contract's been created or not. And then it'll create a token on that contract, and the owner and admin of that token will be the creator. And this also will emit an event that it'll decode the signature and validate that the creator of the token was the one that actually signed the message to create the token. And then it'll mint an X quantity of tokens to the collector. And this is basically when the gas is paid, all the stuff on the right. So this orchestration is very complicated, and the above example by the first minter, yes, exactly. So the first minter is the one that's basically calling pre-mint. That's the question. Yes, the above example by the first minter, and then also the person who calls pre-mint and brings a token on chain will earn the first minter reward, which is like they get a reward. They get incentivized for paying the gas by getting a certain amount of ETH for every token that's minted. So this is very complicated. Like you have to sign a message, you have to submit to the API, then you have to fetch from the API, and you have to call a contract function to mint it. Well, we encapsulate all this complexity in our SDK, so you could very easily build on top of it. So here's an example of a creator client being used to create a pre-mint. So the creator client will create a pre-mint with a contract config, which will have like the contract admin, which is the one that the creator's address, the name, like the metadata URI, and then the token information, which is like the token URI, metadata URI, payout recipient. There's other stuff here like max quantity, how long the token can be minted, what's the earliest date it can be minted. But for the sake of this example, I'm simplifying it. And so basically this is like, you're saying I want to create in the future a contract and a token on that contract. So actually calling create pre-mint doesn't do anything. It just prepares data that you can use later to actually sign the pre-mint and then submit it to our API. So here's a more full example. So when they click create, this like signature dialog comes up, and you can pretty much rebuild that using our SDK. So up here, you can see create pre-mint can return two things: type data definition and submit. Type data definition is actual data that needs to be signed, and submit will takes that signature and submits it to our API, which can be fetched later. If it's submitted to our API, it'll appear on Zora Co. And it also on Zora Core, so people could mint it on our website. And then also you could fetch it later, collector could fetch it later to mint it from the API. Of course, you could submit it to another API if you wanted to host your own backend. This type data definition needs to be signed. So we use this WAGMI hook use sign type data. And you can see down here, use sign type data returns sign type data and the actual signature. And then when a button's clicked down here, you will call the function sign type data is called with this type data definition that's returned from this function. And then once this is called, this data will up here will no longer be null and undefined, the signature. So once the signature is available, you can just call submit on with a function that was returned from create premint, call submit with that signature, and that'll submit this to our API so that it can be served later. There's a question there. Okay, I'm going to answer 2 questions. The data premint expire? No, the data never expires. There's basically 2 parameters you can set. There's mint start, which will determine the earliest the token can be minted. And then there's duration, which is once the token's minted, how long it can be minted for. You can set that to be unlimited, so it could be an open edition. You can also say mint start can be now, but there's no expiration. And yes, protocol fee, there's multiple ways that projects can, someone asked if there's ways that to share that with project building top Zora. Yes, there's multiple ways, and I'm going to show that later. So just some nuances about premint for people that are interested about the technical details. So before premint's created, there's a deterministic contract address, which means we know what the contract address of the contract that's going to be created in the future is going to be. And that's based on a combination of the contract level settings, which is like the admins and the metadata. Multiple premints can be created against a single collection. So you can think about each premint is going to be associated with a token. So you can have like a future collection you want to create with multiple premints created against it. And then each premint has what's called a UID, which is a unique ID. And this is different than the token ID when the actual premint is brought on chain. So that can be confusing to people. We've seen that. And another nice thing is that premints can be brought on chain in any order. So you can create like 5, you can sign 5 messages for 5 different tokens that are to be created. And the contract doesn't exist yet. Those premints can be minted in any order. And then the token ID associated with that premint will be auto incremented. So yeah, what's great is like you can create like a future collection with multiple tokens. You don't have to pay any gas for it, and then they can be brought on. The tokens can be brought on chain against the same collection in any order. And we also support smart wallet based signatures for creating premiums, which opens a whole other suite of possibilities, which I won't get into right now. So now I'm going to talk about protocol rewards, which is someone asked about how people building on Zora can earn part of the protocol fee. So right now there's a protocol fee of 0.000777 ETH for each token that's minted on our creator contracts. And that goes partially to Zora, partially to the creator, and can be also partially distributed in other ways to people that build on top of Zora. The nice thing about the protocol rewards is everything's entirely on chain. We can't change it on you. All the rules are immutable. So once the contract's created, those rules are set. Unlike the traditional Web2 model where these platforms can change and obfuscate how you're paid out. So the basic example of reward is a creator reward. So when a creator, every token that's minted, a creator will get 0.000333 per mint. That also can be like, that creator can be a 0x split where those rewards are like distributed among multiple. It's an address that distributes rewards among multiple recipients. There's an example on the docs that shows how to actually set that up. And then there's a mint referral reward, which is, let's say you're building a website and you're letting people mint Zora mints on your website. You could append an address to the mint. You can insert an address into that mint that will earn 0.000111 ETH every time a token is minted. So you could build like a website that serves a bunch of mints, and then for every token that's minted on your website, you earn this amount of ETH when people collect on it. How do you set that up? Very simple with our SDK. You just, when you build this collected client.mint, you just pass this mint referral argument. And this will basically this mint referral will receive the mint referral reward when the transaction is executed. And then create referral report is like, say you have a website that's onboarding creators to create or letting people create on your website. This is basically how you could earn rewards for people joining as creators or creating on your website or on your platform. And the way to set that up is, let's say with pre-mints, if someone is creating a pre-mint on your platform, you would just put the create referral address in the token set field, and that address it's actually, once the token's brought on chain, that create referral address is stored with the token, so it's not changed. And for every mint that happens on that token, that create referral will get a reward. For more details, documentation, links, and FAQ, go to github.com, go to this URL. We're going to be posting the slides to that website so you can have access to all these. I went through this kind of quickly, and now it's, I guess, time for open Q&A.
Yep. I can see there's a bunch in the Q&A box. I can help, go through the questions and you can answer them one by one.
Sure.
Right. We have a question from Nevan. Can SVG files on Zora be uploaded on chain instead of IPFS?
I'm not so familiar with that. Why don't you post that question on that GitHub issue, and someone might be able to, on the GitHub page, and someone can probably answer that in a better way. Okay. Isaac, do you know if it's possible with SVG to, I'm not sure actually.
We'll need to confirm. Yeah, if you could just kindly post that question in our GitHub repo, that'd be great.
Awesome. Next is, I have a collaboration artwork and the other artists never receive money. What should we do?
Something you've already created?
That feels like a support question. Would you be able to reach out to Zora support on Twitter on that, and then we'll get back to you.
Next, we have James. We have created an on-chain Netflix governed by a DAO, which decides what is and isn't distributed. We are curious to know from your perspective if Wabble would suit your track. We have built in an NFT creation and sale marketplace into our contracts, open source on GitHub, but it won't be live for end of on-chain summer. Thanks, James.
I mean, so first of all, it doesn't have to be built. There's not a requirement that the project has to be built on our tools or on Zora. I would say if the on-chain Netflix is like a creation tool or like a minting experience, then yes. Yeah, I would have to look more at it. But I'm glad to take a look at the projects. Someone asked, did Zora get rid of attributes on the min page? Isaac, attributes were part of 721, right?
So we did deprecate that on the UI level, but I'm just confirming with the team right now to see if this is I think there is still support on a contract level. So if you're a developer, you're using a contract, you still be able to access the attributes, the metadata. But on the UI level, no, we don't have it anymore.
Next, are there any modules for revenue sharing?
The only thing I can think about is if you want to do like splits. So if you check out 0x splits, you could build like a split contract that distributes rewards in a further way, but built into the contract right now, built into the protocol. Those are basically create a reward, mint referral, create referral are the main like revenue sharing on mints. I guess the other revenue sharing is if you want to price your tokens in ERC20s or ETH, then you'd get that full amount of revenue. If in ERC20, there's a small fee on that, but yeah.
Got it. Next is do we know why HTML mints were removed from the site?
I do not know the why, but there's nothing stopping you from creating using the SDK, and also the minting page will still work. There's nothing stopping you from.
Yeah, I think this is a really good opportunity for the devs and the core gear or anyone to build a Zora client that's focused on HTML mints. That this is like the perfect opportunity.
Next up, we have Pedro. Hi, folks. Thanks for the presentation. Recently, I noticed that the inclusion of attributes properties was removed from the token creation page on Zora's UI. I'm developing a project, an archiving game, that relies on tokens metadata to create an entity relation visualization. Question is, by using as ZDK, is it possible to create a token creation page inside a web app, preferably one that is similar to Zora's token creation page?
I would recommend using the SDK that we just showed you the examples for, because that's going to have more parity to what's on the Zora create page. And I think we do plan on adding 721 support to that too. So that's, I believe, better for like attributes. But yeah, I would say I would recommend to use the protocol SDK because that's more actively maintained. And you could create a token creation page inside. Yes, use the protocol SDK to create the token creation page. The example I showed you. It doesn't have UI elements, but maybe as a hackathon project, someone could build like a whole UI framework on top of that. Could be a good project. Someone asked can we upload the images with the API? Not currently. That's a great question. Do we have to maintain our IPFS file storage? Right now, unfortunately, you have to maintain IPFS file storage, but we plan on building like a IPFS. I believe we plan on letting people like a tool that abstracts away like uploading the IPFS, the metadata to IPFS and like formatting it correctly, but that's not currently available in our SDK. But I would say post that issue in the OCS hackathon, and I could look if we can try to get that out sooner or see what's the deal with that. What's that question there? That's a good one.
Next, we have what if we don't have any mints? Do we have any benefits from these NFTs?
If we don't have any mints, do we have any benefits from these NFTs? I'm not sure I entirely understand the question. What do you mean if you don't have any mints? Could you type in the chat what you mean by that?
Cool. I think we can circle back on that. We are building a fully on-chain pixel creation project. Is it a must to use Zora protocol? I think this was answered.
No, because you don't have to build on our contracts. I think it's actually like an on-chain summer like thing that you don't actually have to build on the projects themselves.
Let me mark this. Can I use the SDK to get users already deployed 1155 contracts, so I can use it to add a new mint to it instead of creating a new 1155 for them?
That's a great question. That's the next thing we want to add. So if you could just like post, remind us to work on that. And we could put that, if you can create a GitHub issue in the OCS hackathon repo, which I'm just going to paste again here so that people have it. That's something we definitely should support. I think, let me just paste it in the channel. Please request that there.
Do you have any insight with Fleek XYZ functions triggering an 1155 NFT and depositing it in a digital wallet?
I'm not so familiar with what you mean by triggering an 1155 NFT, but maybe what you're saying is a Fleek function could create an 1155 NFT. But if someone wants to explain it, if I'm misunderstanding that, or what I believe what you're saying is, can a Fleek function like a webhook or a serverless function trigger an 1155 NFT? What I imagine you mean is create one. And I think probably the best way to do it would be to create a pre-mint by using our SDK. So you could have like a wallet, like a wallet in Node.js that signs the message via our SDK and its private key and submits it. There's an account that like signs the creation using the data from Fleek and then submits it to our API using the SDK, and then you don't have to pay any gas. Like that wallet doesn't need any gas in it. So I would imagine that would be a way you'd want to do that. But if you want to type that question in that issue.
Yeah, next I think we have Mark. Does the API support a use case which using a single ERC 1155 contract, but the different editions in it can belong to different creators? In my exact case, there could be a single contract for the project.
Yeah, I mean, basically 11, you can have, there's multiple ways you could do that. So a 1155 contract can have different tokens. Each token can have its own set of admins and also own set of payout recipients. Let me actually share my screen quickly so I can show you where that field goes. There's actually two places you can, I'm going to share my screen quickly, share some code. Hold on, let me find, creates. So let me share my screen quickly. I think we're running close to time. Hold on. Why don't you actually, yes, basically there's, hold on, let me just see how I can share my screen quickly. Can I share, yeah, okay. So let me just make this bigger. So, create new 1155 token. You can set out payout, like payout recipient can be whatever address. So that address is going to receive the rewards. Additionally, the account. So you can give, when you call create 1155, you can give it an existing collection address instead of like, this could be like an address. And additionally, the account that's going to be creating the token needs to have permission on the contract to create tokens on that contract. When they create, they'll become an admin of it, but through the SDK, you cannot administrate roles, but you could, it's like a few lines of code to like the main admin of the contract has to grant the user permission to create tokens on the contract to other users. Or if you want to just create on behalf of the user, you can create it and set them as a payout recipient, just they receive the reward. But if you want to be able to manage it, you have to do another transaction to make them an admin on that token. It's kind of a complicated question. If you want to post it on, can you make it permissionless? No, because I mean, you need the person needs to have permissions on that contract to create. So that's just how our contracts work for security purposes. Yeah, I think the best thing is just maybe create multiple FT5 contracts. But yeah, why don't you post that question at our GitHub, and then yeah, you can answer that. We can provide more examples there and limitations. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
We can take a couple of more questions.
How-
Could you? Yeah, you can go through.
Yeah. Can you share how metadata is stored fully decentralized? Yeah, it's on IPFS. If you post like to our APIs, if you create a token with like a IPFS URL, we will parse it. And how metadata gets stored. I know we use IPFS links. I believe that we may we have our own IPFS hosting where we distribute it, but actually, okay, I answered that question and I actually don't know the full answer to that, and I have to look into it more. So yeah, so I don't actually know the answer to that. But if you want to post it to our GitHub, someone can look into that and get a better answer. When we create an NFT on Zora, but no one minted, to the creator, I mean, only discoverability, but they won't get any monetary. Someone asked, will we create an NFT on Zora, but no one minted the NFT? Does the creator of the NFT get any benefits from the creation of the NFT? No, I mean, they just get it shown. So it's like discoverability, it's just a way to post it, but they won't get any monetary reward. Do we index contracts somewhere which is usable? Yes, there's like a subgraph that we use internally, and you can access it via the SDK. We don't really publish it publicly, but if you look at our SDK, you can see how to access it. We just don't want to like publish it in our doc so that everyone's like using it, but it's definitely available for people to use. It's just not published, but you could look at our SDK code and see how we query it and what the URLs are. It's a little secret. Best way to get and connect with us, I would say ask questions on the GitHub, just because we're super busy. We're trying to just improve the tooling. So I'd say ask questions on the GitHub, and then we can have discussions there. And that's it. I think. Any more questions?
Yeah, I think we can give it another minute. If there are no questions, then we can call it a wrap. So yeah, folks, if you have like any other questions, you can feel free to drop it in the Q&A box right now. Otherwise, I have just reshared the link to the GitHub issues page for Zora specific for the Onchain Summer Buildathon. So feel free to drop your questions there as well, and that is how you can get in touch with the Zora team. Awesome. That's enough for that. Yeah, I think we can take one more question. Can we make multi-chain NGT platform?
I think multi-chain NFT, yeah, I mean, multi-chain is a very great topic. So yeah, any interesting multi-chain mechanics are a great thing to work on for sure. Okay.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, I think that brings us towards the end of this workshop. So thanks a lot, Dan and Isaac, for joining in and talking about the creator track, especially walking the participants through like how to create and deploy on Zora. What I would also like to ask you is like for any like concluding notes you may have, something you might be interested in seeing coming out of this hackathon. Anything in your mind? Basically, I was just asking, like, if you have any concluding notes, any sort of interesting project ideas you feel people should build on, and whatever you're expecting from this.
Sorry, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like remixing and forking is really interesting. Multi-chain mechanics, interesting pricing models. So we have this thing called minters, which like right now they're kind of priced in like a fixed value. What if you could think of, different kind of mechanics for pricing these? Like new kind of, new ways for people to make money. On-chain ways, stuff with attestations is really interesting.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, and also, yeah, I think someone asked for like, someone, Wiz on Warpcast wanted, like Dragon, like really easy to use, like SDK that's at a UI level. So kind of like very configurable, UI models for creating and minting NFTs, like that are like developer tools would be interesting. That make it really easy to build UIs around this stuff. Your own UI, yeah.
Isaac, anything you'd like to add on?
Yeah, I think it'd be very cool to see medium specific Zora clients or like minting clients. Think of it as very much like a video specific minting experience, ad specific minting experience. I think creators generally just fall under the bucket of like, oh, you need to be an artist. But I think with Zora, it's kind of as long as you're creating somehow, like we want to be able to embrace that and make it available for everyone to collect, create, post. So yeah, if you're as long as you're building within those realms of, I guess, categories, and we'd love to see them come through. Reach out to us, jam on ideas with us publicly. You can reach out to us on podcast. You can reach out to us on Twitter or GitHub. So yeah, looking forward to see all the projects.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan and Isaac, for your thoughts on this. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this workshop. I hope all your questions were answered, and if not, I've just dropped the link. I can maybe do it again. The link to the GitHub issues for our Zora. So feel free to go ahead and ask your questions over there. And once again, thanks a lot, Dan and Isaac, for making it to the workshop and helping the participants at the Buildathon. And as for the participants, for tomorrow, we have payments with Stripe track workshop, and you should be receiving an invite for that soon. And like till then, just never stop building. Right. Thanks, everyone.